going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC reality check for the second time this week. This is the state of wrestling, and that is Jake fucking DeMarco. What's going on, buddy?
Holy hell, my good friend Spaz. We are just knocking it out, one after the other. Talk about being, against the normal odds of things. The universe is liking this. You gotta be careful. See when the house burns down.
We said it before I don't live in the States and there's no riots going on at the moment, so I don't think I have to worry about that. What we said before we came online, like the biggest problem in wrestling right now is there's way too much to talk about, so we've extended State of Wrestling to a second episode this week.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that. I mean, there were so many things the other night that we had discussed.
The list got cut in half.
Yeah, that we couldn't even get really into yet just because of how big and wide everything turned for the last few weeks. And that's what I'm saying. Everything just feels larger than life right now. They're bringing out new characters, or you've got things that are advancing well. Everything, it just has that big time feel. SummerSlam helped with a lot of that, but
even the stuff, and I think we said this in the last pod, but even the stuff that's not quite hitting is carried by the fact that overall things feel good.
Yeah, there's a few questionable things, but nothing is like, come on, I can't sit through this anymore.
I will say very, very, very quickly before we jump into our first topic, coming off of SmackDown this past Friday and, the news that, oh my God, Nia Jax's title celebration was pushed back by 1 week. And it's like, oh, here we go. Triple H is starting to bury the women. I have two things to say really quick. If you're upset that Nia Jax was bumped for Roman Reigns' return, the Bloodline, Cody Rhodes, new U.S. champion, LA Knight, for Nia Jax, there's that. And on the other side, Triple H doesn't know how to book women. He's burying all the women. Two words for you. Rhea Ripley.
I'm telling you. I went back.
And I'm sorry, no dig on Nia Jax, but she's not Rhea Ripley.
I went back and no, she's not. But you and I were talking about NXT when Mauro was still there, 2019. And at that, almost Christmas time, NXT won. You got it where Rhea first won the title against Baszler. Rhea beat everybody but her up to that point, and that match was great.
The night we beat Dynamite.
Yep. And you still remember it. I do, too. And that's a standout for me. I could not wait to see Rhea on the main roster. She has not, let us down. And that's kind of the thing, I think, honest to God, if you went and talked to Nia Jax, the person, and said, hey, we're going to hold off because we have this and this, I don't think she would take it as a slight. She knows she's a heel. She knows that it's going to be a point in time to get heat. And that's not the type of theme or episode they were going for. They wanted that good feeling like, oh, my God, Roman's back. You got to watch to the end for him. But everything else in between was like a new leaf, essentially. Now that Bobby Lashley's not there, the Street Profits are now face again, so that kind of turned. And then also LA Knight coming out, another face, big win. So they wanted that feel-good show.
Well, I wanted to two things you just mentioned right there. Yeah. Number one is a small thing. I'm hearing or I'm seeing a lot online now that Bobby Lashley's gone. People want to remove BFAB from the Street Profits act. I think she's great with them.
I think she is great.
She's a mouthpiece. The argument is they don't need a mouthpiece, but Paul Heyman and CM Punk worked, and Punk didn't need a mouthpiece. I just think it's really good. I thought that was a really minor thing that came out of SmackDown. But the one thing that I meant to hit on the previous pod and we didn't get a chance to, they're legitimately trying to do Raw and SmackDown after SummerSlam like Raw and SmackDown after Mania, I think, at this point. Especially with SummerSlam going 2 nights coming up in the very near future. It is becoming like destination weekly television. They're trying to have a second April, for lack of a better term. And I think they hit it with both shows.
Yeah, no, they certainly did. And I mean, it's just been enjoyable. And that was kind of the thing. I know we did touch base on it briefly, but people were saying, oh, SummerSlam, it was so predictable. But it wasn't up to that point. It really wasn't. Any one of those matches could have gone any which way. Rhea could have won. Dominic didn't have to turn. It wasn't like that was a foregone conclusion. It seemed like that was going to happen, but it didn't have to happen. And that's the thing. There were breadcrumbs. There were things to follow. There was trails left behind. But
I think it's good that they did, though, because I think they cut off at the pass the accusation that they got that they're slow burning the dissolution of the Judgment Day too much, and they just had, Rhea's got to get turned on, Priest has got to get turned on. They did the 1-2 punch the same night, and like you say, Monday was a reset. Monday was a reset as far as the title picture on SmackDown. Obviously, Roman and Solo are going to have some stuff going forwards. We're going to talk about that much later on. But yeah, as far as it doesn't mean everything's scrapped and we start back from zero. Raw after WrestleMania has never been that either. Stuff happens at WrestleMania that either finished or has just started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The introduction of Edge having Damian Priest at his side, and I think that started at a WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
When he came out at ringside and nobody really knew why, because he was a babyface at the time. Mm-hmm. And that one, oh my God, why is he out there helping that guy, turned into the story we have now.
Exactly. That's how we got the Judgment Day. That's how, pretty much all of it followed forward. And
Judgment Day 3.0 at this point.
Exactly. We've been through enough iterations, but even just to hear that they were going to, they didn't have enough faces at that time, so they wanted to turn Edge, but they also were going to do supernatural spooky shit that Edge didn't want to do. So it's kind of funny that, with Vince being gone, they were booked more seriously than they were intended to be.
It's kind of funny as well, because the whole, you go into Judgment Day, no matter who you are, you come out as a face.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they didn't treat them like the Wyatt Six as Vince had wanted to. He wanted, well, they're not even, I should say the Fiend instead of Wyatt Six. But
the whole gothic overtone thing was with Edge as well. And then they kind of became just assholes that have sort of a goth rock aesthetic. But my thing is R-Truth hung out with them for a little bit. He stayed babyface the whole time. Edge started them as a heel, got kicked out, was immediately branded babyface, and I'm sorry, fight with me that Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest aren't two of the biggest babyfaces they have right now coming out.
Absolutely. Rhea's massively over, and Damian Priest is only putting himself in a higher and higher regard with the fans. So if you look back to Raw,
I say it again, he's bigger. He looks bigger now that he doesn't have the title anymore, which is bizarre.
It is bizarre, but the story that he has now, not that it's bigger than the title, but it's equal to, in the sense of him just having more title defenses and no real substance to it. He's better off with this story and trying to avenge Finn Balor turning on him than just having good matches with Seth and Owens and whoever else they were going to find.
Well, it's the old WrestleMania argument of, okay, WrestleMania's coming up. Do you want to have a title shot or do you want to be the Undertaker match this year?
Exactly.
What some of those. Some of those were bigger than the title matches those respective years.
Well, think about Raw this week. We had 3 new champions.
Yep.
We had 2 huge betrayals that changed the Judgment Day.
Yep.
We had Drew McIntyre not only getting the biggest win of his career, essentially, over Punk, but he also proved that Punk is his own worst enemy.
Yep.
Seth Rollins gets completely taken out. Bronson Reed is now, I don't want to say fully over, but established more as a main event star to be.
I don't know that he's going to be over, but they've definitely let you know that they have elevated him.
Yes,
that's the way I put it. It's up to the fans to receive that. Or the fans received it on the night because the fans like a new thing.
They do like a new thing, but they also do like Seth. So it was interesting to hear them chant one more time, because your guy is in the ring coughing up blood, and instead of getting heat, he was getting praise because it was just so badass and unexpected.
Okay, but that's also a fan flurry mentality, right? We all remember Suplex City, 16 suplexes to John Cena, right? A lot of that was because some people do like Brock Lesnar, even though you're not allowed to these days. A lot of that was because people were sick of Cena. But take out who the people are aside, there is that thing that the fans like of just, oh my God, another one. Oh my God, another. No, there's no way. Oh my God, another. There is that as well.
Repetition.
So
certain extreme, scenarios, because Lesnar's, you've seen him win a match after one suplex, one F5. We've seen him destroy title reigns and crush dreams. We've seen him not even be an entrant in a match and win it. For Christ's sakes.
Yep.
I was there in person when he won Money in the Bank over Mustafa Ali and Finn Balor.
Oh, were you? Nice.
And, we were at the 2019 one where we had the Brock party, and I remember being so deflated and angry sitting in my chair being like, are you serious?
But you know what the funny thing is, though?
Because they left Mustafa Ali at the top of the
looking like a dork.
Yeah, for like 45 seconds, he's just like, "Oh my God, he's
But you know
coming."
what I love? I love the fact that like that was the funniest Brock Lesnar we ever got when he got the briefcase and he turned it into the beatbox, and it was like
the Brock party.
It was the Brock party. It was Brock and roll. It was all that stuff, and he
was
like,
dancing, and he kept making Heyman laugh. So he's supposed to be a heel, but he's making Heyman chuckle.
And all the fans that hated it more and more and more, and he knew exactly how to play with it.
Oh, he wound me up with it.
I'll still say to this day that's why he was the most logical guy to take the Undertaker's streak. I hear everybody with the whole, oh my God, you could have given it to somebody, it could have skyrocketed them, whatever. No, whoever did that was going to get immense hate.
No matter who did it was going to get destroyed. But I think the big issue wasn't so much that the streak ended, but how it ended. It was such a just disaster of a match.
Yeah.
And then Undertaker going to the hospital, not knowing if he'll ever wrestle again. So now the streak is over.
That part I get. No, the match wasn't great, but the decision was made before the match happens.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Like the decision was made like, okay, we're gonna pass it on to Brock. Brock's already like, I'm gonna steal a Simon Miller thing here. Like Brock Lesnar's like one of the final bosses of WWE.
Yeah.
Give him that extra Infinity Stone of, hey, by the way, I also beat the Undertaker. Remember that guy you like? Remember that guy you watched since you were a kid? Kind of destroyed him and didn't make anything of it.
And it worked. It made Lesnar powerful more than ever for a long time. Eat, sleep, conquer the streak. And we haven't really had many people presented in such a fashion for a long time. So having Cody somewhat be on that level and making him be the person that can take the elite ass whooping and still cut back and get back up.
I see what you did there.
Absolutely. When he gets knocked down, he gets back up.
You said a key thing there, and it's going to bring us into our first proper point tonight. You mentioned presentation.
Yes.
What's a more fun presentation right now than the WYATT 6?
Absolutely. And the fact that they're using logical members involved. So everybody, as we said before, they all had a family. They all lost something. They all lost someone. They all lost their way. Mm-hmm. And now Uncle Howdy is leading them to be a family, to feel again, and to reestablish their dominance. And the story is not anything superb yet, but there's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of mystery shrouded around. And guess what? They have fog. People are like, oh, it's super... Cody Rhodes has fog, and so does, half of the women's tag teams that come out have fog guns or pyro.
Okay. I'm done with the what consists of supernatural these days.
Yes.
Because here's the thing, people. I'll go back to Karrion Kross for a second, right? People like to shit on Karrion Kross. I don't get why. He's doing his thing. He's not taking up any main event spots. But you remember way back when he was in Black and Gold NXT, they did the contract signing with him and Keith Lee.
Yes.
And he hid the little fireball in the clipboard. And everybody's like, oh, I guess he's magic now. I guess he can just make fire from air. No, he's an asshole that put a little trap thing in the clipboard so that he could attack his opponent.
Exactly.
Like Jericho-esque almost in these days, right? But it's like you can just do things that are vile as a person. As we know, turn on the news. Real people are scarier than any monsters that you can make up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've almost turned off that part. Oh, they're supposed to be scary, and what's with all those masks? I'm like, okay, you guys jerk off over luchadors. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely is what it is. It's funny because their presentation and how they are in the ring, they come out as this big sort of horror movie entity, and the vibe completely changes when they get to the ring when the match actually starts. Because I'll throw this to you because this is the first thing that came in mind to me. When they started in the ring, they almost had a Raven's Flock element to them.
No, absolutely. Oh, God damn it. You took the words out of my mouth. And that's why I always enjoy talking to you, because we get to the same conclusion, just on totally different tracks. Our trains are chugging along, but we meet at the end. And like you said with presentation and in Raven's Flock, and these guys are just presented as horror characters.
Yep.
Now, their original intro made people think that they're going to be paranormal because they had people look like they were shot in the head and dead all around. But what's to say that they didn't just come in and attack people?
Yeah, hit somebody with something that had a jagged edge. There's no way. Go back to, Brian Pillman or Steve Austin or whoever chasing down Vince McMahon. Or sorry, it was Steve Austin. It was the gun that said Bang 316 and all the cable network, foray that came after that. There's no way WWE's ever going to do a gun angle.
No,
Like,
certainly not. They can't now. They can't later. And they actually had to like tell people that Chad Gable was not dead. And I'm like, come on, really? Like there was a lot of fans who were like, he's dead, and they weren't joking. They felt that way. But with the Wyatt Six,
I loved joking about the fact that he was dead.
Yes,
within
that was
the
funny,
context of like I'm an adult with a functioning brain that's enjoying a creative stint on a story.
You nailed it. And that's the thing with this one though. I don't feel like an old man yelling at clouds because so far the way they've been presented is as a horror-themed group that are ready to brawl and fight and beat you down after mentally scarring you on the way to the ring. The Undertaker had said many times that the slow walk to the ring wasn't for the fans. It was to put dread in his opponent and have that sense of like doom approaching you.
The best part of an Undertaker entrance is watching his opponent watch him come to the ring. I don't care. Put all the extra like zombie hands that he had at like some of the WrestleManias, extra smoke, extra lightning, different music, different outfits, like when he had the buzz cut with the mohawk that was questionable.
Ain't no grave. Hold me down.
Well, yeah, everything that they did Metallica one year that was kind of awesome. Anything.
Remember, I'm sorry, but when the Hell in a Cell had its own entrance theme.
Oh my God, yeah.
For WrestleMania.
That was so good. That was really good.
It was so bad.
Everything that they put into an Undertaker entrance, like.
Yeah.
I mean, Triple H has done some weird stuff, but like the most elaborate entrances have always been the Undertaker because of the kind of character he is. It's a big theatrical thing, right? But no matter what,
with this, we got the full theme song. We didn't know if we were going to get that or just the piano.
I'm really glad they kept that. Yeah.
So am I, because it's such a good theme, and it didn't get to be.
And it adds to the tribute factor as well.
At all. Absolutely. So initially, I'm like, all right, they just have the one piano note, and I was like, I'm upset they're not going to use the song. I wonder if they'll do it in their entrances. But I like the way that they're paying homage to Bray without being Bray. So they just had that creepy ding, ding, ding.
And the thing is, they've given all the little different things, right? My whole point with The Undertaker was the whole aspect, and they did it with Chad Gable's new group as well, the American Made, as they're known now, is they put a lot of focus on them watching these guys come out. Watching the opponent have that, what the hell am I about to deal with, was better than anything else they ever did in an Undertaker entrance, because that's the point. But what they've done with Bray is they've given different elements to different people. Joe Gacy has a lot of like Bray Wyatt, like the cult leader elements from NXT for people that are watching NXT. He does the whole like flip over on his head and look at people upside down thing like Bray did. So they've kept that with him. Obviously, Eric Rowan is able to tug at everybody's heartstrings, not only for Wyatt, but for some of the Brody tributes as well, which is awesome. I hope that part of it specifically stays with him. The promo style is obviously with his brother, the presentation, the lantern, and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing I heard this week, and I only read like bits and pieces of it. They did an interview with Dexter Lumis about what his role was in the group, because he didn't have like a direct connection per se, and how his wrestling style was going to be, because as a wrestler they kind of, like, a lot of people came down on, because he sort of played like an indestructible guy in NXT, and a lot of people didn't like that, and he says, well, I'm not going to wrestle like Gacy, like, have you seen him wrestle? Like, he's awesome. And then I'm not going to quite be a power guy like Rowan, because fucking look at him.
Exactly.
And so what they did literally with him, and was one of the guys said literally, can we throw you? And he says, yeah, you can throw me around, use me as a weapon, do that. Like, because that kind of thing where you pick up Dexter and throw him over on the opponents on the outside of the ring or whatever. So
you're power bombing him on top of them.
So he's a member of the group, but he's also the group's literal weapon. Like, I didn't pick up a
You're dead right.
I didn't pick up a chair and hit you with it. I picked up Dexter and hit you with him.
Now, here's the thing too that I want to have you touch upon better. You're a little more elegant with the words today. My brain's lacking some sleep. I only got a couple of energy drinks in me. But the Wyatt Six are massively, phenomenally, hugely over as baby faces, which I love. And they could flip at any time, and they could make them heels, or they could make them more supernatural. But as they're doing it right now, it just gets you in the feels. It's an emotional ride. That's the point of this. They come out, they're getting cheered, they're giving you great action in the ring, and then they leave you with wanting more.
Yes.
And as you said, they debuted multiple people on Raw as well. Odyssey Jones comes out and picks up both members of AOP like he's, popping open a Pez head and having a snack and just pops them down. And it's like, oh my, those are not small boys. If you picked up DIY, I'd be like, wow, that's a cool spot. He lifted AOP like they were a sack of ham and just went ahead and lobbed them down to Mapletown. Like
I like sack of ham. That's good.
You never had a sack of ham delivered covered in maple, then you're missing out. But thank you, Santa Claus. I'm telling you, though, the point is they had 2 major debuts in the same night, and the dichotomy between the two is astounding because they're both faces. So you figure the other group would have to be evil, surely, if they're showcased as monsters. And that's kind of the thing that comes around with monsters. When those monsters first come out, Braun Strowman, whoever it was, even Andre the Giant, you don't know. Are they going to take any damage? Are they going to be totally...
Oh, okay, I see where you're going.
Object?
Yeah. No, they took it, yeah.
Yeah, so throughout the history of wrestling, when you have monsters or big men, you typically see them be invulnerable to pain, or there's some, guise of them being more tolerant to destruction in their bodies. Like they're able to tolerate the pain somehow because they are so freakishly strong, crazy, evil, whatever you want to present them as. Now these guys are just... They're themselves. They're not. They come out. They wear masks, but they take them off. Like all of the things that people said. Oh, they're going to wrestle in the mask. That's going to be stupid. They took them off. Oh, they're not going to use the full theme song. They do it just for the entrance. Oh, they're not going to wrestle. They're just going to hit people. They had a great match on Raw.
Yep.
Like I don't know what else people can think of to cut it down.
And credit where it's due. American Made were a hell of a first opponent for them.
Excellent. The story that they're telling there is, again, multifaceted, which is why I enjoy what Triple H has done lately.
And
I know
this is where you talk about, Triple H being the zombie and whatever and never took any damage, and then they sort of worked that out throughout the years and whatnot. This is where I go for more once they were in the ring, they were more Raven's Flock-esque in the sense of, they got hurt, but they were playing these troubled people that have been hurt their whole lives. So it's not that they didn't get hurt. It's that they got hurt and they're used to it and they carry on because they're the type of characters that just carry on. And I think from a great storytelling point of view, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just a straight psychopath that enjoys pain.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
You see
okay,
that.
Maybe you are seeing it differently than me then, because I'm not saying they necessarily enjoy it. I'm saying these are all troubled people. That's the whole point of why Bray Wyatt brought them together. It's like, I got hurt, but I'm used to it. Doesn't necessarily mean I like it, but like life's already fucked me over a million times. What's one more person punching me in the face? That will get people behind them.
Oh, absolutely. What I was, I guess, going after is that, like, Bo Dallas, the night where he was attacked in the ring, and he just kept laughing and laughing. And it's not that he's not feeling pain, but it's that he's hurt so badly, there's nothing you can do to hurt him.
Yes.
He's so mentally destroyed, but he's not invulnerable. He was getting attacked. He was
of course,
hurt.
the laugh in the face is a psychological game against the opponent.
Exactly.
Right?
And we've seen it done for years. Mick
Foley, right? Like, nobody's going to say Mick Foley didn't hurt himself over the years, but like the whole getting up from the rubble of the table after the famous cell fall.
Yes.
Like, there's more scary than watching him fall off the cage. If you're his opponent, talking in storyline, talking in kayfabe, more scary than the fall off the cage is being his opponent and seeing him get up from that fall.
Who did in the match the corner spot where they went upside down?
That was Gacy.
Okay.
Because he did that. Because he did that in NXT. He did that in NXT as well, just as the cult leader Gacy character with Schism. Yeah. So I think they've let him keep that partially because it was already his thing, but again, it all ties back into Wyatt. What I'm interested in.
I always forget his name. That's why I had to ask. But he fits so well, and he's the one that for whatever reason his name won't stick in my mind, but Loomis does, But they're funhouse characters, and people were like, "Oh, he's going to be, Huskus the pig boy. Oh, he's going to be, Rambling Rabbit. That's so stupid. They're not going to." No, they're themselves. They're telling you these are their names, but they just have these as kind of alter egos, and it's like
a nickname, idea. Realistically.
Yeah. It's like throughout history, where they would have, knights would paint their armor black to intimidate, enemies.
Of course,
Same idea. It goes on. It's
fighters wearing war paint, which ties into like every wrestler that's ever had a painted face ever.
which comes
like,
back to
from the Road Warriors to Stardust, and I'm not even saying that in a negative context in this particular way, right?
What does it come back to? Presentation. And the way they presented them, even when they destroyed and murdered 70 people the first night, they still have that overall air about them that makes them intriguing, because you don't know what's going to happen next, because they are unpredictable, and because we didn't know how they were going to be taken, you weren't sure. I mean, this is not the the COVID times and the Thunderdome, and when they were trying things with Bray that really wasn't working.
Yeah,
but then
the thing with Bray though is, like, they did the Funhouse, and the Funhouse was a gamble. Like, the Funhouse could have been really awesome, which it was, or it could have come off shit. But even if it came off shit, a character like Bray Wyatt allows you to take those risks, and even if it was shit, try it again next time.
You're not wrong. And here's the thing with the Funhouse. The Funhouse was always enjoyable.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what happened to Bray, the character, the Fiend, any of that, when he was in the Funhouse, he delivered. So no matter what, the Funhouse was always over, but the Fiend kind of got tired, and Bray was very upset about how the Fiend turned out. First, you get him beaten by Goldberg. I don't
get that, because I think it worked. I think it, like, every time, like, even when they did, like, the whole, like, burning thing, and then he had, like, the separate mask and different thing, and then he sort of, like, came to WrestleMania, walked through the portal, and he was fine again, which was hilarious. Yeah.
That was,
obvious. CGI is obvious.
Yeah, they could have done some different things with that. I didn't hate that, but I did get to be a bit down on how you could see Vince not really having a long-term plan, and he was kind of flying by the seat of his pants, and it was like, okay, this week we'll burn him, next week we'll do this, and then we'll get Bliss involved, and oh no, she's the key now, oh, we're going to have her take the gimmick.
The whole
and that was
thing,
kind of
it kind of went up and down when they put Alexa with him. The entire presentation of how she came out like evil Alexa Bliss, like out of that haunted Jack in the Box thing at WrestleMania. Like, what happened after was lame, and then they had the thing with all the black stuff and whatever.
Yeah,
but like the initial presentation of seeing her just rise up out, like, for her to come out of the Jack in the Box like that while he had like the big comedy hammer, and somehow it was still effective. Like, it's one of the, like, obviously the guy passed away, and that's terrible, and we've talked about that.
Yeah.
But, like, it's one of those things where you, like, okay, his passing aside, like, where were they going with that thing specifically?
And
like,
that was kind of the problem with Bray. He was very against both times he was booked, and we heard him speak to a few others, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get the words much from himself. I mean, he didn't get a chance to cut any real interviews and whatnot. I always like, I would have liked the dirt sheet tell-all from Wyatt, but essentially the issue was, before he left, Vince said he became difficult to work with because he was very protective over this Fiend character, and Vince just kept making him do shit he didn't want to do, essentially. So
Vince is an idiot sometimes.
Yeah, but they didn't see eye to eye, and then he got released, and then he did this great comeback after all the Mania BS, and we got this really cool, amazing welcoming back, and now there's going to be this Uncle Howdy thing, and then that went to shit because it took 4 months to not develop at all. So people were very weary with this, but this is not the same person handling the week to week, and that's
of course, yeah.
They're not telling anybody to sacrifice their Taco Bell burritos. They want them to actually go ahead and have a real
couldn't happen
purpose.
To a bigger asshole. Not gonna lie.
Right? I'm telling you. And that's the thing that kills me is again, presentation here. People were just excited to see what happens. We got that first match, a huge draw from them, and now we can see them. I'm not saying next week, but in the future, because of how they presented them last week, now I can see a lot more develop. Now that I know they're not superhuman, they're not,
you know where I think they're going.
Possessed.
You know where I think they're going, because everybody's sort of saying that, like, these guys are all from different families. They made their own family. They're going to target anybody that turns on their family, which is why they went for Chad Gable first.
Yes.
Tell me that doesn't lead right into a Wyatt 6 Judgment Day feud.
It really does, and that's where I think we're going to have that go to. I could see that being Survivor Series or even Mania if they push it right.
It's a hard
because
stretch.
of the tag titles.
It's a hard stretch to Mania, but it's one of those. Much as I like the Bloodline, and we're going to talk about that shortly as well, I would say put this in what's it called? War Games. War
Oh,
Games.
War
instead.
Games. Yeah, that'd be cool too. I mean,
Well, it seems like
it's going to be the Bloodline, but
yeah, it seems like War Games is going to be the cell with Punk and Drew, which makes sense. I mean, we're already booking 3 or 4 pay-per-views.
Oh yeah,
ahead,
we
which
might
is
actually
nice.
have that at Bad Blood even.
Yeah.
And as of right now, Liz, who I talk to every now and again, friend of the show, she goes ahead and she's got tickets to Bad Blood, and
Nice.
even those were incredibly expensive. A friend of hers bought them. He was like, "Oh, I wanted to sit on the floor, not even up close, like way in the back was like $700." And what does that show you?
Yeah.
And what does that show you though? The interest, the drive, the want to see WWE live is back again, and we've known this for a while because they've done how many sellout shows in a row?
Well, they
Mania
have, but that's where
time,
I'm gonna pull back and say, look, you guys have the numbers now. You can afford to knock down the tickets a little bit.
Exactly, and I think pay-per-views are going to start to settle a bit more, and it won't be as bad. A lot of it is, of course, too, the egregious, awful raping that comes from Ticketmaster, and
Yep.
I mean, the fees when I went to SmackDown, we got 3 of the tickets from Road Dogg, which was incredibly kind. And then I had Danny and her boyfriend here, so I'm like, the 3 of us will go. And my wife wanted to go, and my mother wanted to go. And I'm like, all right, so I'll go online and I'll see how much it is to do like the pay it a little at a time ticket thing.
Yeah.
And the first thing off the bat, they ended up sitting in the very last row of the arena at the very top. So they were looking right at the screen, not basically where the announcers would sit, but just all the way against the arena wall.
Right.
So I'm front row, and they're very back row. So Danny, her boyfriend, and I saw it ringside, and then I could see my mother, my friend, and my wife all the way in the very back of the arena. And the point was, the ticket price was damn near the same. So it was
no.
baffling that was
That's
and
rough.
It was,
I can't say the ones up here were that bad. When I got
it was like
bundle for Money in the Bank.
$560 for 3 tickets at the very back row.
I
And
mean, I was at the back of the 100 level, which was nice because I'm not the tallest person in the world, but I still don't want to be the asshole that's in front of somebody else. So it meant like there was like some club boxes behind me where people were getting drinks and whatever, and there was like a table there for anybody that just wanted to have a seat for a minute, but I wasn't blocking anybody when I was shooting out of my chair when CM Punk was doing all the stuff I wanted him to do. And
exactly, and that's the thing.
all right, speaking of doing all the things we want to do, I said it kind of fell flat at SummerSlam. I'm sticking with that a little bit, although it was really exciting. Roman Reigns properly returned to SmackDown. Didn't have much to say. Beat the shit out of the entire New Bloodline minus Jacob Fatu, who's apparently still injured. It's weird, because I don't think he knows how to be a cheered babyface, because he was booed as a babyface for a while. He was cheered as a heel on the Tribal Chief run, but now it's synced up that he's basically turned babyface while he's been gone.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And
you see him, and he's soaking it all in. If you watch the SmackDown thing back, like he pauses more than once.
Yes,
because he doesn't know how to take it in just yet.
Yes, and it's still that's the thing. It's heel Roman just cheered,
just
as
not being
face.
a heel anymore.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, he's doing everything that he would have as the Tribal Chief and as a heel. He went in there, he Superman punched both of them, he gave him the spears, like no real move changes to signify he's a face. Like no, sometimes they come back with a new finisher or something like that to differentiate themselves.
I'm not sure about the music. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't love the edit that they have. It doesn't have.
Well, it's the edit from WrestleMania, which I thought was
then.
just a WrestleMania. Because it was performed live, because it was that huge friggin' orchestra and whatever.
Yeah, that was different. So I didn't mind the orchestra playing live.
Yeah.
But the new theme, it doesn't go anywhere. Like
it takes a while to get going.
And by the time he's like halfway to the ring, then the beat starts to drop a little bit, but it doesn't have that same like. It gets to the beat drop where like you have this crescendo. It builds and builds with the strings, and then boom. Now you just have that constant like. Angelic chorus and the building, but it doesn't have that same.
It has a lot of atmosphere. It doesn't have a lot of punch, which is the balance that they have. I mean, at WrestleMania they didn't have to worry about it because you almost couldn't hear it over the crowd, right? But here's what I don't get: is he's come back as a good guy now. He's come back as a babyface now, and he's
without ever changing or doing anything.
But he's gotten the music that was representative of his last stand as a bad guy, and now it's his good guy music. Now, apparently, Def Rebel is working on a new one, so them using the music from WrestleMania is just temporary. But as soon as you hear Def Rebel's working on something new, it kind of terrifies you at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know what they're going to give us. I mean, theme music is something, and that's one of the things I used to say too, not just about like ticket prices, but all of it, and how much it's changed as the culture, as time has went on. You know, people buy tickets a year in advance now, as where when I was young, Raw would come, my grandmother would go to the ticket office as we went to the doors.
Oh yeah.
And we would buy tickets then. You're talking late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, the internet made purchasing tickets online a thing really more, because you used to camp out for tickets for shows if it was going to be a big one.
But with a boom like they're in right now, there's no way you're going to walk up to an arena day of and get a ticket.
No, absolutely not. And that's
like
the thing that you see change.
Even if it was like the old school days where you had to go to the arena to buy your ticket, people would have done that like a year in advance. They would have done it the day they went on sale. You would have had the old school like videos and pictures of people in tents outside the Ticketmaster office.
Oh yeah, I camped out a few times for shows, and no doubt about it. But
Ticketmaster for us used to be inside Sunrise Records.
Yeah,
and then Sunrise Records, or sorry, not Sunrise, HMV.
We had Strawberry Music here for us. Strawberries and something else.
We had HMV, and now like music stores don't exist, so clearly Ticketmaster doesn't exist in those music stores.
But that's because music doesn't exist like it used to either, and that's a whole, but that just
separate
shows
conversation
like with the times. Yeah, but that's
a conversation with movies as well.
Yeah, no, that too. But it's just amusing to see how, so much has changed, but yet WWE can still be the same. It's about a group of guys, whooping ass and taking names, and whether, Roman's the face now. And like you said, he's not really acting like a heel or a face. He's just being himself. And he's not a tweener either, and neither are the Wyatts. I was worried how they were going to be.
I was going to say he's definitely not a tweener, because you saw him. He came out at SummerSlam. He gave the nod of respect
when
to
he came
Cody
out,
Rhodes,
the microphones peaked. They could not go any higher. Like the noise blew out because of the static generated from them screaming so loudly for Roman's return, and that's incredible, and that's awesome, and I love seeing stuff like that. So that was cool. I can't wait to for him to actually say something that warrants him making the turn. He gave Cody the nod, so that was the start of it. But now, does he ask Cody for help? Does he? There's a lot of story to tell, a lot of intrigue again.
The fact that he hasn't cut a promo just yet is key to what they're doing right now, because the one big feature, if you want to call it that, was the tribal chief with the bloodline all around him and all that. He owned everything. He like planted his flag everywhere. And how did he do that? He did that by like spending the first 20 minutes of the show talking, spending the last 10 minutes of the show talking, like taking up as much oxygen as he possibly could. And now if they pull back on that and he's just like, no, I'm just going to come in and do my shit, like, I think that will be a key, if they choose to go that way, that'll be a key difference in this is what Roman Reigns is now. Like, not not a Goldberg where you come out and say who's next and leave, but like the opposite of coming out and doing a big diatribe.
Yeah, and like speaking Cody, for an hour.
Like if he's got a fight coming up with them, like say building towards War Games or whatever, right?
Yeah.
He cuts off Cody Rhodes in the middle of a promo versus whoever he's facing next. He comes out, he grabs the microphone from Cody, basically says, "Are you in or out?" Yeah. Cody gives him the nod, and he leaves. Like that 2 or 3 or 5 seconds as a face, as this new version of Roman Reigns would be better than anything he did before that, because it's such a switch. He shows up on Raw, say Jay and Sammy win the tag titles from Judgment Day, because that's where it looks like they're going. He walks out. It's
interesting too, because Jay and Sammy apparently have been traded to SmackDown for A-Town Down Under.
Have they?
That's the last I was hearing. I mean, I know they had mentioned it on Raw with them being there, but then they were still on SmackDown, so people were confused. But the report was, they traded.
Oh no, they had crossed over for a week because A-Town Down Under had the interaction with Awesome Truth on the pay-per-view, and they wanted to tie that up.
But they also said that there was supposed to be some type of trade work, but I don't know if they went through with it or not. So.
Oh, like a temporary, like you got us for 1 week, you got us for 1 week. But anyway, no. But for the sake of my hypothetical, say at Bad Blood, Jay and Sammy win the tag titles. They come out on Monday Night Raw for their celebration. Roman cuts them off, comes out, looks at the two of them, doesn't expect anything, doesn't expect to be welcomed or embraced or anything like that. He basically looks at both of them and says, "You know why I'm here? Yeah. You in or out?" And leaves.
And that's it.
Like
And that's
him being like
all
short to
you
the
need.
point and like being this guy who's going to do his own thing but not take up all the oxygen in the room
Yeah, exactly.
would be really cool.
It would
Anyways,
be great.
so this ties into slightly rumors from this week, and they're not gigantic, like record-breaking, earth-shattering rumors, but the rumors for the WrestleMania 41 Night 1 and 2 main events as they stand right now, Cody and Rock, which we've been saying for a while.
Yeah.
The other rumored main event is Roman Solo, which a lot of people groaned at. And a lot of people saying like Solo's he's not the guy, he's not the one we want, da 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 da. Okay? 8 years ago, who were you saying that about?
Yeah, exactly.
You were saying that about Roman Reigns.
It's like Roman doesn't deserve it. He shouldn't be here. He's getting pushed. This is ridiculous. It's all nepotism because of his family and, with the Shield. And yeah, no.
I'm not saying it's going to work. I am saying I'm very interested to see if it does. That's the only point I have to take out of all this right now. Because if you're planting your flag right now, I've used that phrase a lot in this pod. So it's all about setting out your markers, right? But if you're planting your flag now and saying our plan, because it's not till May next year. Like they've bumped it into the next month.
Yeah, we have tons of time.
We got a whole lot of time.
They don't want it to be cold this time. Cody even said they had that heated ring and that did nothing. He's like, they were blowing hot air on top of us. We were freezing. It did nothing. And that first night, you saw Roman's hair like frozen to the side of his hair. Head. Excuse me.
And apparently, the night 1 and night 2 was literally like night and day temperature-wise, weather-wise as well.
Remember night 2 was much better.
They weirdly had Michael Cole updating us on the weather throughout the whole show.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm not by any means saying, oh yeah, by then Solo will be ready. What I'm saying right now is, I wonder if Solo is going to be ready by then. And because there's a lot of time to fill between now and then. But that means you got to keep the Roman Solo thing.
There's so much to it. Does he face Solo? Does he face Jacob? And I keep hearing that Jacob is injured in the sense of wink, wink, hint, hint. Now some people said he had a boot on, but we've heard no legitimate reports so far that he is injured.
Even if he's not, tell us that he is.
Yes.
Because right now, the one that everybody's talking in Bloodline 2 is Jacob. Yes. So the farthest you can go before Roman and Jacob come face to face,
the better.
Whatever the halfway point is between now and WrestleMania, make that the time where Jacob has his first one-on-one with Roman.
Yeah, certainly.
Solo struggles, and the other two kind of get kicked around because that's going to happen. I'm sorry, it is.
It is going to happen. I mean, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa are there to take some great shots, and they're good at it. But
Tonga Loa is there to punch his own partner in the head. It's
fine.
Yeah,
exactly. Right through the nut shot. But they're not going to be top guys, that's not. And Jacob Fatu, they had to get him out of there and make it believable, or else why wasn't he there to stop Roman?
Exactly.
So he got hurt. He had to hurt himself.
Yeah.
And it's like a perfect setup.
And I'm sorry if he wasn't legitimately hurt, that's probably the best sell I've seen this year.
Yeah, he did a great job, made it seem believable, and also, made the story make more sense. Because why was he not there to help? Why was he not there to help Solo? Oh, because he fucked his leg up trying to do what Solo asked him to do.
Yep.
And then you get that.
And you'll notice they didn't really say anything about it, but it's Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa that are carrying around those belts now.
Yeah. And they're like, the only thing they said was Jacob Fatu is injured. Yeah. Is injured. He's part owner of the tag title.
But they don't have to say much because there is a precedent in WWE. The New Day did it with the titles. We had the moments in the Bloodline where Sami Zayn came and stood in for one of the Usos when they had the titles. So they've set a precedent now that we all know about, unless we want to play the denial game. They don't have to say anything about it.
No.
So because SmackDown is doing this little mini tournament, I think the final is next week. So whoever's getting that next title shot, it could be against Gorillas of Destiny. Keep Jacob off of it. And
it seems like they're going to get a DIY rematch at some point, but
yes. But if DIY wins, they can downplay it and say, "Well, you didn't win the actual champions because the actual champion."
Or you didn't.
Make sure the one you pin is Tonga Loa, who technically wasn't one of the champions.
Yeah,
and you can play that out for ages.
Yeah, you guys didn't really beat the tag champs.
You beat a modified version of the tag team champions.
And here's the thing, Roman, if he's never calling the shots, he's telling what's happening on the show, but they still need a general manager to do something. Like if they're going to attack somebody, that's them. They're going to beat somebody up, that's fine.
Yep.
But if they're going to do anything that requires a match, or it has to go through either, Aldis or Pierce, basically.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my main gripes with AEW, because you have the Elite, and they attack Tony Khan, and they have said that, hey, because we attacked him, he can't come to the next 3 weeks worth of shows, so we're taking over.
He can still make all the rules, and he can still reverse the suspension on poor Sasha Banks.
No, Britt Baker. Yeah,
on Britt Baker. Yeah,
he reversed her. So now Sasha, poor baby, doesn't want to have to face her, and it's like, oh, but and so it just doesn't make sense. Why are they able to make rules yet?
You see the big protection thing that's gone on this weekend with AEW, eh?
Yes,
because people are finally calling out the Bucks won the titles and they haven't done anything. Oh no, that wasn't them. That wasn't them power tripping and being lazy. That was all Tony's decision. Tony's really in charge. It's like,
yeah,
okay, that many voices coming out at once sounds like you doth protest too much.
Yeah, just a bit.
But if we're going to speak about tag team wrestling, we're going to speak about good tag team wrestling, and the fact that good tag team wrestling is in WWE and not AEW. Let's talk about the Lucha Brothers, or are they the Lucha Brothers?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
I love this. I love the trademark stuff. Lucha Brothers are running out their contract with AEW. This is all very loose information. People in the comment section, or Jake, please correct me if I say something wrong. They're running out their contract supposedly like September, October time. They have gone for a bunch of different trademarks and names for the purposes of wrestlers and entertainment and wrestling and entertainment, whatever. Two of the names that they have trademarked are Rey Fuego and King Fuego. So if they are going to be the Fuego brothers in WWE, that definitely could be a thing. The other key is, and I don't remember where I read this, so my apologies for people that are source people, but apparently one of the key things in the conversations that they have had is that they do not want to start in NXT.
Yeah, they want to go right to main roster, which I get.
Which is fair, which from their point I understand it. I was having that thing in my own head of I want to see Rey go to SmackDown and Penta go to NXT, because Penta in NXT would be Penta in NXT when NXT goes to the Hardy compound.
Yeah, right.
That's everything happening all at once.
And
Penta being managed by
we know we're going to get the Hardy Boys.
Yes.
You're right about that. They're at some point they are coming back. We know they're going to take Matt and Jeff and bring them to the Hall of Fame. Like this is established. I'm hearing that this year, 41 is going to be that they're going to be inducted, Jeff and Matt together as the Hardy Boys. So
I'm
like,
some NXT stuff, because they've hinted that they want the NXT tag titles. Those are the titles they've never had.
Exactly, and they want to wrestle all over, so that's interesting. But a lot of times they send people to NXT. Why? Like Vacour, Stephanie. She was all okay for it. Why?
Yep.
Well, she's only been working in Mexico and independence, and she does not know anything about WWE or American television. Like where's the hard cam? Where to look? How does this work? How does this go? How do you know when you're in commercial break? How do you those kind of things? So NXT is a great learning point.
But the other thing about it too, and I have to go back to an old Austin Aries interview from back when he was in WWE, because when they put the cruiserweight championship on him, he was constantly being put onto the kickoff, and somebody asked
did he ever
him,
win it? I thought he never won it.
I think he held it at one point.
I thought he lost to Neville like 3 times and never won it. You could be right.
Maybe that was the thing. Maybe he was constantly on the hunt for it. But they always asked him.
I remember he had WrestleMania 33. He was on the pre-show, and he got pissed because they didn't put that on the DVD or whatever, and that was one of the reasons why he wanted to
he didn't get any rights money out of the DVD sales. But it all came about that he was always on kickoff things, and somebody asked him, aren't you pissed off that you're always on the kickoff? No. I'm going to make it a challenge. I'm going to see if I can bring more eyes to the kickoff. Now, that might have been a bit delusional, because the kickoff is the kickoff. But if you're a big name star, you can either go to Raw or SmackDown, or you can take on the challenge of how many eyes can I bring to NXT. There's a certain kind of talent that's going to want exactly that challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how many people watched when Becky was there? Like when Becky came back, when Charlotte came back.
Yeah,
even though everybody
Lila,
supposedly hates Charlotte Flair, but they went and watched.
I mean, look at what happened to Rhea and Charlotte at Mania 36 because of the whole, and the Money in the Bank, and where do I pick from the Rumble? Where do I go from this? And there was a lot of things. And excuse me, again, I just want to go back really quick, but there's layers upon layers upon layers in WWE right now with their storytelling. And if you don't see it, that's fine, because a lot of it is not in your face. But for the fans like us that are the sickos, as they like to call themselves on the other side, the ones that, anybody that follows wrestling news, that goes for rumors, breaking me over here, anybody that does that, you pretty much have your faculties in place of, how wrestling works, what's going on. So when you hear the fourth wall breaks, or you hear the little comments, or you see things happen, it's like, oh, hey, you know what? That's awesome, because so-and-so never did this. Well, you think back, Bronson Reed was supposed to face Seth Rollins for the title in what, February, I think it was?
Yeah, when they went to Perth.
Yeah, they went to Australia, and that was his home country, and then Seth got hurt and had to have that whole time off to heal up so he could do the Mania match, then have surgery.
And I think Bronson Reed had some family stuff going on at that point as well, I believe.
I think so as too. It turned into that, but I distinctly remember Seth being like the main issue. But like even still, so now when he attacks Seth, it has another layer to it.
Yep.
Seth, you cost me my chance at the title in my home country. I never got to do this in front of my family, and now they're telling me I can't go for the titles, and I'm going to make my own luck. And it's like, oh, and then he went after Seth again because. So things like that, but they're not going to.
And it's a very convenient time because he's trying to make a point to Pierce by ruining Pierce's show. It's a very convenient time because storyline wise, they have to pull Seth Rollins away from Drew and Punk, or else we're just going to go into Hell in the Cell, assuming that there's going to be interruption from Seth Rollins. But if he's already got broken ribs and busted abdomen and shit from being landed on by a very, very large guy from Australia, then you write him out of the equation, and it makes sense for him not to be there. You don't get the people being, oh, I thought Seth was mad at them too. Why didn't he come out?
Yeah,
and
why is Seth
all
not
of a sudden
here
you're
now?
having an argument of people not liking that there wasn't an interference, and X becomes a cesspool. But
exactly. Well, he's still at this time. Seth is still injured as well, so this writes him off. He's dealing with chronic pain and some other injuries as well.
Well, this is the thing too. We're gonna jump forward a little bit. The two major injuries that were announced this week. One is Rollins, who's just overall dealing with nagging issues that were the same issues he was sensing like before Mania, which is super unfortunate. They've been specific as far as it's nothing new. Like, he hasn't incurred a new injury.
No, it's just nagging problems.
He's just being careful with the stuff that he's already carrying, which is fine, which is more than a well enough reason. And Dakota Kai has...
I'm going Thursday to have the surgery he had on his knee, and my ACL is gone. My meniscus is torn on both sides. I got to get a whole bunch of shit done, and... It's awful because I can walk sometimes like 2 miles and be perfectly fine.
Yep.
And then one day, all of a sudden,
wrong step.
I just can't get down the stairs, and then I have bruises all over me. Like, it's just like, and it just wants to give out, and you don't know when it's going to give out because of the ACL or the tendons or whatever, So you can't be wrestling like that and then be like, oh shit, here comes my point, and then he's dead. You know what I mean? Because he fell wrong or he climbed the turnbuckle. So you got to take care of these things now.
Of course.
And had Vince still be there, not Triple H,
you rub some dirt on it and play through.
Yeah, because that was the mindset, and I know they're more aware of like, oh, we're more stout on concussions and we're more focused. And granted, because if you look back,
do you know what a big part of that is as well? Though I'm sorry to cut you off, but like part of that is a really really shitty mentality from Vince, right? But another part of it is like, especially with that as well. Like, you get an inbuilt bit of ego. No, I can do it anyway, which is also bad. You should
the Daniel Bryan mentality.
Take care of yourself mentally so that you're not carrying that kind of stuff around, right? But the other thing
Bryan needs surgery again because he can't stop fucking himself up in the ring. I mean,
he's
look
going
how
to
many
get neck
times
surgery,
he's been
but yet he's going to go have a world title match in what's it called, Wembley.
Yeah, in Wembley, and the doctor keeps telling him, well, so long as you go ahead and you manage to take care of yourself till then, you should be okay to make it. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Let's make him paralyzed or have to retire again or any of this shit when he wants to retire so he can go and spend time with his children.
But here's the thing, and I hate to give a sort of a toxic way of thinking some legitimacy. Go back a couple years in WWE. You lose any one of those big stars, there's a hole in your show. Like when they lost Roman Reigns, there was a big hole in the show. When Seth Rollins was injured previously, there was a big hole in the show. When
Seth had the knee injury initially against Kane in that house show, even though he was was he a heel at that time? Yeah, he was. He came back and then he was supposed to return as a face and didn't really. It was kind of weird, but
here's
he became the Kingslayer, right?
Here's two things I'm going to say. One, right now, if somebody gets hurt, obviously I don't want anybody to get hurt, right?
No, of course not.
But people need time off just to go relax and recharge, even if they're not hurt. And again, a totally separate story, right? Right now, if somebody in WWE gets hurt, how dense a roster do you have? How many people are willing to throw their hands up and be like, I'll take that spot. And when he comes back, we can have a great match. I can talk about how I filled in his gap, and he can talk about how he went away and somebody else took his spot, and we can have a ready-made thing right there.
I actually think it was trifold, too, not dual-fold, to cut you off, but it was also, so wrestler's mentality, it was, the mentality of Vince in the business of, you just rub some dirt on it, as you said, with concussions, with injuries, and then also it was... At that time, anyways, you just nailed it. There wasn't a ton of top stars, so if you weren't there to keep your spot, you were getting replaced.
Exactly.
And
the way
now
they've done it
Seth will come back, and he can have a title match against Damian Priest when he comes back because they can work it out. But originally, he would come back, and he'd be stuck in the mid-card for 3 years because he's not in the main title picture, so let's do nothing with him.
But the way they've done it right now is they've almost ensured that there's something to come back to.
Exactly. He's got a ready-made feud.
He's got Bronson Reed to come back to. Dakota Kai, who we also talked about, and oh my God, how many injuries has she had? The poor thing.
That poor girl. She's broken more
but
times
she's
than
got she's got a group to come back to. First of all, the whole damage control thing.
Or control.
But she's got a feud to go back to as well because. Shayna Baszler and her whole group are the ones that took her out, kayfabe-wise. So it's like, don't worry about getting replaced because we already have this waiting for you when you come back, which is awesome. And what else lends legitimacy to that claim? You could always say, like, oh, there'll always be something waiting for you when you get back. I'm sorry, this year alone, Rhea Ripley, CM Punk.
Well, you know what? I can, yeah, exactly. No, you're not wrong. And on top of that as well, think about it. Like I said before, you wouldn't have a spot. So people, if they were out, like when anybody got hurt, they weren't used, they weren't utilized. And think about Roman. You said before, Roman Reigns, when he left for leukemia, and he was a champion finally, just won it from Brock. Now he had to relinquish the title. And when he came back, he didn't go right back into the title picture. He had the dog food stupid stuff with Baron Corbin, and he was fighting Drew, and then him and Drew, had the team with Shane and The Undertaker, that kind of stuff, and blah, 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 or him and The Undertaker took on Shane and Drew, you know what I mean, and all these type of things because he wasn't in the main picture, so we're...
And think
Roman's
about that, too.
still
Think
a
about
guy,
that stupid story that, Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin had for a while there.
And so many people were involved in it, too, I forgot.
Well, no, that's true, but I'm saying specifically between the two of them, like between Roman and Baron Corbin, like, here's a fight between two guys you couldn't pay me to give a shit about back then.
Yep.
Didn't care
There's
about...
no story.
That too. Didn't care about Corbin, and I was actively sick of Roman, which is where most people thought. Who would have known this many years later, Roman is one of the biggest things in the company in a positive way, and Corbin's pretty fucking decent just existing on that, mid-card level.
Yeah.
Like, I was one of the guys, from old school NXT when, Baron Corbin was a biker and still had hair.
Yeah,
I know this is the super indie and he's the anti-indie guy, but it's kind of working. And when I was doing the NXT Rewind series, it's like, this guy was really fucking good. And because of what we thought NXT was at the time, nobody, myself included, was giving him his flowers at all.
No, and I liked him too. And then I remember when he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, I was really stoked for him.
Trophy that means nothing.
Now that means jack squat.
Tell me somebody whose life has been made better by the Andre Trophy.
And they could have done so much with that. And it didn't always have to have you got a title shot at the end of it, but they could have done something with it. It just felt
It could have been one link in a chain in somebody's momentum going forward. They shot forward, or they made themselves a friend, and off the confidence that they got from the Andre, they found a friend and they became a tag team champion. And then that tag team broke up and they feuded over each other for the IC title. And now look, one of them, it's not that it is difficult. I couldn't book WWE, but it can happen. There are people that can put that shit together.
And that's the thing too. Like you said, we got nothing for so long, and it was the same boring stuff. And Cesaro won, and then Baron Corbin won. You're like, oh, two new guys. They're going to do something with them. They gave Cesaro that big Andre moment of Hogan slamming Andre, with a Big Show and Cesaro. We're like, oh, this is going to be so. And then nothing. All right, well, next year they'll focus. Oh, Baron Corbin. Oh, nothing. Oh, Matt Hardy gets helped by Bray Wyatt. Nothing. It was just that. It was just to get everybody on the card match. And now that it's two nights, we don't have many of these multi-man things happening anymore. We kind of get everybody that needs to be or earned to be on the card. But
when there is this is the thing too, where there is a multi-person thing, it's it makes
sensical?
sense. Like, yeah. Like, I don't want to say that because it sounds like a really simple thing that I'm saying, but if you got two people fighting with each other, they've definitely got a story, and the story that got them there and that got them on the card properly and all that kind of thing. But when you get to, like I say, the point of something like a War Games, you got 8 people in there, you've got 5 stories happening there. It's not just, oh, I needed a friend, and 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 this person's not on the card, so why not throw them on?
I nailed it.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. You
the
know,
intricate
time and time
stuff
again.
is like, oh, you know, AEW came along and created the idea of factions. Well, first of all, suck my dick. Second of all, like, Survivor Series Gang Wars was a thing like 20 years ago. Survivor Series as a concept was built on building factions. Now, they were temporary factions. Maybe it was like 2 tag teams got together, 2 other tag teams got together for the night, but it was still faction warfare. We had the DOA, we had the Nation of Domination, we had Los Boricuas, we had DX, we had a very neutered version of the NWO. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, there are some decent factions in AEW. It's fine. I like the Learning Tree because it pisses everybody off. Why? What do we say on this channel? Why does Spaz like the Learning Tree? Because it pisses off all the right people. Oh yes.
But see, that's the kind of thing. Like with me, it pisses me off because just because of what we're getting with Jericho and all of his bullshit, but also because there's so many other things that desperately need that TV time.
Yep.
That they could be boosting somebody with, or you know, and unfortunately they have let you down with MJF and so many others time and time again. And it's like, I think
this is where you and I come
Rumble.
from.
I did.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're pointing out everything that's wrong with AEW right now, but you, at some point, on some level, still want AEW to do well.
I want it to succeed. That's why I'm critical of it. I like AEW still.
I don't. I would tell them to their face that I want them to fuck off. So I don't have the investment that you or Jake or you're Jake, you or Joe or anybody else like the What Culture guys or the Wrestling for Life guys over there that are like, oh, maybe this will be good one day. Like, I've lost that investment. So if I can tune in and watch Chris Jericho be Chris Jericho and watch everybody else get wound up about it, like, that's entertaining.
It works for you. See, for me, there was a lot of people I liked.
That's well, there's a lot of people I like there too. So I'll watch their matches.
Yeah.
I was very honest about it. I'm bummed we didn't get Ospreay. I really am.
I was bummed we didn't get MJF. I honestly was hoping the way everything worked out.
No, but like MJF was already MJF was already in AEW. Ospreay was in flux between the two companies, and we lost. Yeah. But like, even with him, they haven't done anything. But like, I'll grab the couple of people that I like. Like, I liked the Hardys when they were there. I like Deonna Purrazzo. I wish they would feature her more. I like Darby Allin. I like Sammy Guevara, even though like Sasha Banks has kneecapped his career. I like these people. I'll watch these people, but I'm watching Darby Allin because Darby Allin's great. I'm not watching Darby Allin because AEW is great. So if the rest of it all goes into the shitter and that gets punctuated because somebody doesn't like that Chris Jericho has a job, I'm going to laugh at that. I
get that.
And here's the thing. Here, I'm going to throw some criticism at WWE right now. They have an idea coming up when it comes to the international shows that I think is very dumb. I think is very, very dumb. We all love right now the fact that they have a SmackDown wherever they are, like Paris or Australia or wherever, and then they do the pay-per-view and then they go home, and then they come back for Raw. So, apparently, there's been a complaint that coming home the next day and immediately being up for Raw the next night is exhausting, the time differences is fucking with people and whatever.
Yeah, so jet lag extreme. You're going from one country to another. And
don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying that.
No, but
the idea now is that they'll stay wherever they are, like I say, Saudi or Australia or Paris or Berlin or wherever. They're going to stay where they are. They're going to tape a Raw on the Sunday so that when people come back to the U.S., they can relax and adjust and whatever, and they're going to play that pre-taped Raw on the Monday.
So you know what this makes me wonder or kind of get excited for is Netflix. And that's honestly because if they did have to do something like this, I could see Netflix being like, oh, it's going to be a special Sunday Raw.
Yeah.
And because you're
midday Sunday Raw.
Yeah, it'll be Netflix on demand, so you can watch it live, you know, whenever, like it was just aired. Because USA, you can't. So if you miss it, you can watch it 24 hours later on demand.
Yeah.
But with Netflix, it's going to be an instant, like, you know, DVR scenario. Yeah. So if they're doing that, they could I could see them doing that and having it be much easier on, the ground crew of whoever has to go
but
in.
See, here's what sucks is I'm criticizing them, and I'm thinking it's going to be bad, but I'm criticizing them because they're trying to do something to help their employees and their staff and whatever. So I'm kind of a dickhead. I'm kind of a selfish watching guy right now because I see where they're coming from and what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the spoilers are going to be out there.
Exactly.
It's not like when they do it on Friday and it's just at a different time and maybe the spoilers are going to be out 3 or 4 hours beforehand, which is fine. You can avoid the spoilers for a couple hours. You can watch SmackDown, and then SmackDown is basically just getting you hyped for the show anyway.
Exactly.
It's kind of acting like a kickoff, and I'm trying not to talk down when I say that, but wherever it is, like the France one specifically, when they showed the SmackDown on the Friday, it just gave you an idea of what the France crowd was like. It was big hype. It was last minute promos.
Yeah.
It was all the stuff building into the show. Like there wasn't much to spoil. Raw is where the fallout happens. Raw is much more dangerous as far as losing viewers because of spoilers.
And we've seen that in the past where they have had to record a few times, and they, like
SmackDown,
around Christmas they did it twice, and a few others.
Well, a couple of weeks ago they did it because they were gonna be touring Japan, so they taped 2 episodes of SmackDown. So now I know the results a week in advance.
Exactly, but people didn't feel that way with SmackDown not being live, I guess because it led into, and like you said, it wasn't. It was just more of a hype.
A couple of hours, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Well, SmackDown serves a different purpose as well. Like the SmackDown before a pay-per-view now, and I'm talking about like even the ones that are here on our side of the world. SmackDown feels more like a kickoff than the kickoff does.
Yeah, no.
Because once you get to SmackDown, you've already had when they do the press conference type stuff for the pay-per-view beforehand. You've already had the pay-per-view press conference, and SmackDown is almost something like you need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
In a certain frame of mind, right?
Absolutely.
It serves an entirely different purpose than the Raw after a pay-per-view. Because whatever happens at the pay-per-view, that big wave is coming over into Raw. So there's almost no expectation on SmackDown, and there's heavy expectation on Raw because of just where it falls.
Exactly.
I would love them to move SmackDown to Wednesdays when it goes to Netflix. I'm just saying.
That would be ideal.
It would be fucking... Oh, it would make... What would we say? Once again, it would piss off all the right people. Oh, yes?
Well, you know what? I would like to see a fair, legitimate war happen.
Yeah.
And we haven't really gotten that at all because of, how it worked out. And I always found it to be a little disingenuous with AEW saying, like, we beat NXT, but... AEW's Dynamite is their main show, so I always felt like, hey, you should be going up against Raw or SmackDown.
Well, no, not only that. Like, I wouldn't mind them running against NXT, which is clearly what they've decided they're going to do once a year from now on. But then they say, you brought somebody over from Raw, and that's cheating. Or you brought in this person or that person. And it's like, okay, I can tune into an episode of Rampage and see the same guy that I saw on Dynamite, the same guy I saw on Collision. You can bring in anybody you want from any company you want at any time. So WWE...
From Ring of Honor, from New Japan, from AAA, from CMLL. From...
Exactly. So tell me how that...
Who the fuck or what's it?
Tell me how that's... good.
Okay, but
tell me how that's good. But WWE putting WWE talent on a WWE show
is unfair. Yeah.
Unless what you're saying is you can only compete with a third of the company.
Essentially, and you're competing with the developmental side of things, where most of the people have not been wrestling for longer than a year who are in there. So I mean, really.
I mean, realistically, they chose Wednesday night because at the time NXT was, or as far as they knew, it was on the WWE Network, and it was the most popular thing on the WWE Network. So they were really trying to harpoon the WWE Network. Let's not pretend that that's not a thing.
No, they were set in stone for what they were pushing, but now with the network being somewhat abolished, at least in the States, and...
I was going to say, you guys have it on Peacock. We're going to get it on Netflix soon.
Yeah, which would be nice.
I don't know what the rest of the world has done over time. You hear various
They do have the network overseas still, but I don't know how long that's going to be lasting.
Well, what was it saying? Like, Triple H has been saying in the past couple of press conferences, once it's on Netflix, it'll be available in 81% of the homes in the world.
Yeah.
Which is why I really wish Netflix published ratings.
I am wondering if they're going to let us know anything when that point comes. Are they going to say, here's the standings?
You're not going to get views like a YouTube video, but I would like to see, it is going to go live and then it's going to go to a library, like you said.
Yeah. See how many people watch live. I would love to know those facts.
Like the way that the only thing I can really compare it to right now is I just finished season 2 of House of the Dragon, right?
Okay, yeah.
I almost never, because we don't have HBO up here. We have to get HBO through Crave. Yeah. So I go to Crave channel whatever through the stream. I can watch it live at 9 o'clock, or I can wait till 10:15 when it hits the library. I never catch it right at 9. So there's the live experience and then the library, right? Library views are going to be kind of all over the place. That won't be an apples to apples comparison. But if you can get a direct, at 8 o'clock on Monday night, who was watching Raw? At 8 o'clock Friday night, who was watching SmackDown? At 8 o'clock on Tuesday night, who was watching NXT? From Netflix, they're going to get destroyed.
I don't see how they don't. I mean, Netflix is...
worldwide.
Yeah,
it might
not just
well
worldwide, but they're also, their subscriber numbers are massive, more than, what cable has access to and things like that. So
more worldwide than Titus O'Neil.
Yeah, world slide. I genuinely am excited for this to happen because it was what I saw the possibility of the network doing. Yep. And then, they had some original programming.
Even the network never had Raw, SmackDown, NXT.
No, and that was my big complaint, and a lot of people's complaint initially, because it was like, hey, why are we not getting this if, you're... But it's because they had the TV agreements in place.
I don't think if it was by itself, if the network still existed as the network, if you guys never switched over to Peacock, if the rest of the world wasn't switching over to Netflix, I don't think you would have ever seen Raw and SmackDown go to the network unless the TV networks didn't want them anymore. Because I think they still wanted, because TV is old and streaming is new. I think at that point, because some people were still hanging on to their cable boxes and whatever, I think they wanted one foot in each world. Now that world has shifted and Netflix has come around at just the right time, I don't think you would have a conversation like this maybe 5 years ago.
No,
I think they would want to keep one. I think they would want to, like I said, I think they would want to keep a foothold in the terrestrial TV, even if it was just Raw, move NXT and SmackDown.
They wouldn't get rid of all of it. Yeah, exactly.
Let the flagship stay.
That's no longer the case.
We're not going to talk about Raw anymore. We're not going to talk about NXT anymore. We're not going to talk about SmackDown anymore. We're going to talk about pay-per-views and pay-per-view scheduling.
Because we got a lot coming up all at once.
Because we got loaded weekends. I've just got 2 weekends for you to think about, right? We're not including AEW in this because AEW doesn't count.
Because I'm sorry, but All In I'm not excited for. Last year I did watch from start to finish, and I was only looking forward to a couple of things last year too. And it was obviously the main event, and I wanted to see Punk's match. And Punk opened the show, and...
Imagine if you could order a pay-per-view match by match and everybody tuned out after Sam Punk's match.
Well, we didn't get much of importance.
It was only 3.5 stars apparently, according to Dave Musher.
So it certainly shocks me,
Anyways, but he's not biased at all.
No, but we have Emergence coming up. I know. And
the last weekend in April.
Yes.
We've got Emergence on
August.
Sorry, last weekend of August, rather. We've got Emergence on Friday, Bash in Berlin on Saturday, and No Mercy on Sunday. And then you look at the end of October, and you got Bound for Glory and Halloween Havoc. Now, as funny as it is to say, I'm going to lift Bash in Berlin out of that for a second. The NXT TNA conversation, having Emergence and No Mercy on the same weekend, and having Bound for Glory and Halloween Havoc on the same weekend, there's a lot of crossover possibility there.
Absolutely, especially with the TNA relationship they've had. We know Joe Hendry is going to be having matches on NXT as well. Yep. He's supposed to be at the NXT Halloween Havoc show doing a match there.
Yep.
Right now, for TNA, we got Mike Bailey against Zachary Wentz against Osborne against Hotch, Laredo Kid, and Hammerstone for the Ultimate X division.
Here's the thing that I love, because I just got caught up on my TNA over this weekend. I was 2 weeks behind, right?
Yeah.
But you've got as you say, in this match, you've got Mike Bailey, who I've seen at Destiny. Yes, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. Zachary Wentz, who just started,
coming off of the big betrayal,
had the big rivalry with Wesley, which is definitely an NXT crossover. Riley Osborne from Chase U. Jason Hotch, who I don't really have anything to say about.
I don't really know Hotch much. So
there's a tag team they're kind of like the workhorsemen in they're the good hands. They were sidekicks of Sami Callihan for a while.
Okay, that makes sense.
Laredo Kid,
watching more.
Laredo Kid is awesome. Hammerstone is there to be the big guy in what's supposed to be the little guy match, but I'm really curious as to what he can do in an Ultimate X match. Yeah. And then, as I say, ABC versus First Class. Ace Austin, Chris Bay is definitely another team that I would like to see do a little bit of dabbling in NXT. And AJ Francis, the former Top Dollar, and Rich Swann have been in NXT, and that's going to be a hell of an interesting match because the system is finally out of the way. Thank Christ. And then on the other side of the coin, we don't have anything announced for No Mercy just yet, but Bash in Berlin that same weekend has Gunther versus Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens, which are entirely other conversations all on their own.
And we'll get into that eventually on another show. Yeah, but with this one, we also have ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay taking on First Class. You got AJ Francis and Rich Swann.
Yep.
And it's like they
be a lot of fun,
him.
Man.
Yeah, they teased Francis before. Swann is an interesting character because he's had quite a few things.
Yep.
And it's been interesting. So.
And I like Mike Bailey. I've just finished, like I said, I've just finished watching TNA like over the course of the weekend. Mike Bailey is the NXT champion. This is an X Division Championship Ultimate X match, and even though he's defending his belt in the match, he went to Santino and said, "Yeah, but it's the Ultimate X. I should still have to qualify." So even though he's the champion, he put himself in a qualifying match for the title match, which I think they're doing insanely good babyface stuff with Mike Bailey. Zachary Wentz is probably going to get taken out by Wes Lee, and probably 2 days later at No Mercy have a match with him. That's my prediction. Riley Osborne.
It's a good prediction to have too.
Riley Osborne, it would be really cool to have like a Chase U section at a TNA show. There's all kinds of fun stuff they can do there. And then No Mercy, Bash in Berlin, Gunther and Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. I think they've just gone for, hey, we're going to Berlin for the first time. Let's just have 2 really awesome marquee matches.
Yeah.
There's obviously storylines that are going to come out of it, but yeah. Oh, and there's a note on my Wikipedia right here that I didn't see before. If Orton wins Gunther's championship, then Orton will be transferred to Raw and Gunther will be transferred to SmackDown.
Yeah, they have to switch places, so that's interesting.
I did not
At least
know
they're
that.
Making sense with that. And the only reason that Orton's getting the match
is because of the King of the Ring.
Yeah, and they played up on a botch that worked out perfect in the fans' favor because now we're getting this
But you know
match,
what? Really cocky assholes like me are going to come back and say, but was it a botch?
You never know with them nowadays. Was it intentional? Years ago, I would have said, no, it just happened, and they got lucky on doing things. But now with them, I mean, look what happened with Jacob. People don't know if he's injured or not, if it's legit. Like, is he actually hurt? And people don't know, and they're selling
the thing
it.
Is, this is where
and it makes
WWE,
perfect sense.
This is where WWE can get their credit both ways. If they did it intentionally at King of the Ring, that's long-term storytelling. If it was a legitimate botch and they've made something out of it, that says something about their ability to turn on a dime.
Exactly.
It says something
and
both
make
ways.
something out of nothing.
And speaking of turning on a dime, a couple weeks ago I said I was going to try and have at least one random mystery question at the end of the podcast when we get together and do this. But apparently, because I've got one for you, but apparently you've also got one for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of going against your grain here, but I want to know what you think of this entire Britt Baker situation. I mean, we don't have to go too in-depth here, but...
You're talking about the backstage thing.
Yes. I mean, obviously the booking doesn't make great sense that now they unsuspended her. And
the fact that they've included it into the storyline at all is kind of gross.
Yes.
If you ask me.
That's what I wanted to know first and foremost. Do you agree with me that it shouldn't have been mentioned? Because it was a real suspension, and I don't see how there was no payoff for it, really. Like, I hated that they aired the footage between Punk and, I wanted to see it, no doubt, and you see him, throttled Perry, but it didn't need to be there. It just hurt the company. They didn't
have to make it part of the show. Like, as much as
they
I
could
don't
have put it online on Twitter.
As much as I don't like Tony Khan, if he had gone on the AEW thing, it's like, okay, before anybody says anything else about my company, here's what happened, and just released it on social media and let social media do its thing. I still wouldn't have liked it, but I would have like, okay, whatever. I get that. I can make more of an understanding. I can't get over the fact of, and this is where I don't have any like legal knowledge whatsoever. What's the legal standing on using somebody's physical likeness in a way that wasn't consented after they're no longer in your company?
Yeah.
Like, how is that not a thing?
And on top of it, because like, they were contracted stars with you at one point, so you can air previous footage and whatnot. But like you said, now his likeness is completely revolves around an entirely different company. So I wondered that as well. Like, can they even go ahead and excuse themselves long enough to really be like, hey, by the way, we can't.
Like, you
air
can
this
say
stuff,
you can say you own the footage, which is fine, even though apparently Wembley owned the footage and they had to go get it from them. But like, it still doesn't beat that part of it. But getting back to, I touched on it briefly more when it was in the news cycle when it first happened. For me, this is no longer an AEW thing, because you're talking about three personalities that I like in Britt Baker, MJF, and Alicia Atu. MJF I really enjoy as a wrestler. Britt Baker, as much as I don't like AEW, has been a building block of AEW. And
she's a homegrown original that you can really say. She's been there since day one, and she has touted that company.
Of course. And
pun intended.
Yeah.
And then the tout went ahead and had their issues.
The other thing is, this is where it's more specific to me. Like, and I'm not going to do the Destiny gimmick, but she used to be one of the announcers, personalities, media people for Destiny. I've had the good fortune to shoot the shit with Alicia Atu like more than once, and she's like just a really fucking super nice like, I wouldn't come out here and say, oh, I'm friends with her or whatever.
No,
like, but I've seen her enough times, and we've chatted a couple of times, like, about stuff, not even wrestling, just like YouTubing and content creating
about
and stuff like that. Yeah,
dude.
Well, this is the thing, and like, from what I've spoken to her and had interactions with her, like, she's a super nice person. MJF is awesome. He's one of the few reasons to actually watch the show. Britt Baker is really good, really has her place sort of ingrained in that company. And she has a gripe. She does. Like, yes, you can have a long match with anybody at any given time, but for her to just merely speak up about, like, hey, all of us ladies are scraping just to get on TV, and these guys just went out there and killed an hour. Yeah. Like, where's the balance?
Did that need to be an hour-long match? No.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but no. I mean, you could argue both ways with how perfect the ending was. I like what they did with it, no doubt about it.
But the thing is, right, you could put a half-hour time limit on it and go two seconds from the half-hour thing, and it would have been the same way. And here's the thing, like, I'm not going to go all like stupid and woke and whatever, because people talk about safe spaces all the time and all that kind of thing, right? But here's my thought on this, right? And here's where I'm leaning a little bit more towards Britt Baker. I'm not trying to make it guys versus girls, but if she's talking about a company that doesn't treat the women very well and is talking about, how much time the guys got for one match, it is a guys versus girls topic.
Yes, and environment.
And if she's having that conversation and she's venting her frustration in the ladies' locker room, for the purpose of that conversation, that should be a safe space for her to vent that frustration. So taking that conversation out, bringing it to MJF, bringing it to whoever else, there's a little bit of a broken trust thing there, and I get her feeling invaded a little bit by, like, maybe she was just blowing off steam, like, she legitimately frustrated, but not about to cause a problem.
Not angry, it wasn't going to be a fight like it turned into.
Yeah, just having a vent in the back, because we've all had vents at work, right?
We've all had problems at work. If you haven't, then you must not be actually employed.
Then you've got a pretty good workplace, honestly.
That, or you're one of the outliers.
But, like, and then you hear
that a coworker that's a problem, a boss that's a problem, something.
And it's one of those, like, it's not enough to even make an issue of it, so I'm just going to have a vent about it to my friend next to me, to my other friend next to me. I'm going to talk about the women not getting very much platform, but I'm not going to do it to the guys, because it's not their fault, it's the management and whatever, and I don't want the guys to think I have a problem with them. Like, that's the spot to do that, and you kind of took that away from her if that's how the information got passed on. That's not on.
Like he barged into the locker room, the women's locker room, to have this big fight, but really, I guess it said that he knocked on the door and was trying to start off being respectful, but ended up punching a wall because he got so frustrated, and then
which is okay. And I'm sorry. I'm reinforcing a double standard here, but if you're a guy and you're trying to get something sorted with anybody female, and your way of expressing yourself is to start punching the wall, like, you're doing an intimidation thing at that point.
Yes, you lost already.
I don't know that it's true. If I somehow had it confirmed for me concretely that it was true, I would lose a lot of respect for MJF. I don't know.
I have
don't know
it reported. Hold on, let me pull it up right here from Forbes, and they did say that I got to scout through it. So girlfriend heard and told him, confronted Baker, and then let's see here. Yeah, I know I saw it somewhere in one of the articles, but it said how he went and knocked on the door and then went into the women's locker room to address all of it, and then had punched the wall afterwards. So let me see. Right here, yes. So it says, situation intensified when frustrated MJF, after knocking and making an introduction to the women's locker room and asking to come in, went ahead and punched a wall in the backstage locker room. Although Baker received a brief suspension after an HR investigation, she remained active on television, which kind of true, but they had to let her out again. And sadly, what ended up happening with it is it kind of made me question Britt. That's my point to this and why I brought it up to you, because, God damn it. I mean, I know this company can't catch a break at times and whatnot, but Britt has had a lot of issues with a lot of people. I mean, the entire show of the AEW backstage was built around two people, Britt Baker and Cody Rhodes. So it was what Cody was doing and the issue Britt had with Thunder Rosa. And that's what we were getting at that point in time as a show. That was what we were given. That was what we were presented with. And unfortunately, since then, we've seen Britt have a lot of issues with either women backstage, or she's had, problems again and again with several people. We heard it started with Kylie Ray. Then she had issues with Thunder Rosa. Then she had issues. I know there was another point in time where she had problems too, and now with MJF and his girlfriend. And so is Britt the problem? It begins to make you certainly wonder, hey, does this, does X equal Y kind of thing?
I can see that. You're building up your case, the problem with X, problem with Y, problem with Z. But, because we don't know, Britt had a problem with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Sounds really bad for Britt until you figure out that X really was a dick, Y really was a dick, Z really was a dick. And
a lot of people took her side with the Thunder Rosa thing, but Thunder Rosa was basically just like, all I did was come in and I basically got ostracized for being the outsider. And
because my thing is with this particular scenario, because it's the one in focus right now, even if everything else you say is true, it doesn't make what her gripe is in this particular situation any less valid.
Yes,
because she's absolutely telling the truth, and it doesn't make my response to what MJF has been accused of any less monstrous. You don't go wailing on brick walls in the ladies' locker room because you're upset that somebody called out something that they didn't even really say was your fault.
No, and again,
it's not like she was shooting on the match either. It's just in general, look at how we're treated, look how you guys are treated.
Yeah,
and you want to think that there would be a Daniel Bryan in that situation, would be like, well, she's not directing it at you, man, and she's also kind of right. But then it's the disciplinary committee was the committee that decided to punish her, and I'm like,
and they're the ones that fired CM Punk.
Yeah,
and
so
that's Daniel Bryan and
two
Brian Danielson and two other people. So
yeah.
They decided this with her and said, hey, you know what, this is your fault, and you were the one. Why didn't MJF get suspended if he was, like you said, intimidating? And so there's a lot of questions.
What it does is it reinforces to me
that bad taste in your mouth.
Not the bad taste in the mouth, but more specifically, you talk about the disciplinary committee, you talk about what started it off in the first place, you talk about the CM Punk situation. It reinforces to me that AEW, if you're working at AEW, it's not a place that you can speak up if you're having a problem.
Again, that's exactly what I was going to get into. It really feels like a management issue, because when Punk was going on the tirade backstage at the press conference, at All In, before the Brawl In happened,
he wasn't saying anything that wasn't true.
No, but I guarantee if Triple H was at a press conference with CM Punk, let's say that was in WWE, he did that, and he was pissed off because John Cena's going to beat him again. This is bullshit. I'm not tolerating it.
Yep.
And he goes off about evil John Cena always doing all his shit to get his ways, and he's really not this great
Everybody
guy.
would be cheering for him.
Everybody, that, or Triple H would have shut that shit down in a fucking second.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
that's
I
true.
don't see anybody else, if it was a shoot.
Well, he has a behavior
complaint
clause in his WWE contract.
Certainly.
Which is fine, but that's what a professional
I'm
place
saying,
would
even
do.
if that wasn't there, if AEW was never a thing and this just happened in WWE, I don't see it happening that way. He might go on Twitter and bitch, but for him
But it comes back down to the point of, look at the, I don't know you're talking about specifically the people in charge, but look at the way the world reacts in general. CM Punk leaves a company, does a shoot podcast. That's it, right?
Yeah.
What was people's reaction to the WWE Shoot podcast that he did with Colt Cabana? That I'm talking about at the time, not now.
Yeah. No, the public
and the difference
did not vilify or crucify him for that.
They were drooling for it because they wanted any opportunity to shit on WWE. Now he comes out of AEW, eventually does the Ariel Helwani podcast, says some pretty based stuff, has some complimentary things to say about AEW in certain respects, and just talks more about, hey, this is what I was dealing with at the time, kind of like he did with Colt Cabana, and now he's the villain because this is the company. It's not about whether you're telling the truth or not, it's who you're telling the truth about. There's something very political about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, something that just doesn't sit great with me. Yeah. And that was the thing, like, I guess I just wanted it to be different. You know, I wanted to see that, hey, things improved over time, but since Punk left, it doesn't seem like the backstage has gotten any better in AEW.
I don't want to hear in any wrestling company that the only wrestlers that are allowed to have an opinion are the wrestlers that are running the place and their friends. Yeah. And it really seems like that's what it is.
And WWE is far from perfect, and I'm not trying to make it sound like WWE is.
They've got their ghosts in their closet that aren't even there anymore that they're dealing with.
Yeah, ghost skeletons and zombies. Their closet is full. Yeah. And sadly, I see it as a lot of change happening. You look at the women actually getting the main events now, not because it's a focal point of goodwill. No. Vince didn't give a shit about the women's division. I'm sorry, he really didn't, because you could see after Mania how it again fell into the wayside. But the whole
Black and Gold NXT, friggin' the women have been main eventing in some way, shape, or form since like 2015.
Exactly.
I'm not going to hear that argument anymore. Oh, it's NXT.
Bayley and
WWE.
Sasha, and all the way to Rhea and Baszler, like we said afterwards. You know, the women were in prime positions in NXT while WWE was operating still on a divas mindset.
And the difference is as well is because AEW has, I think, twice on Dynamite put the women in the main event. Right? One, they had to because it was a lights out match. The other one was just because it was a big thing with, I think it was Mercedes Martinez and Deonna Purrazzo at the time, and it was a big ROH thing at the time, right?
Yeah, the other one was
it was there to put it there, right? The women in WWE feel like main eventers even when they're not in the main event.
Yes, because they're presented as equal footing of the men, like everyone's a superstar most times.
I wouldn't go that far.
I feel like WWE really pushes women to be. It's never going to be not never, but at least it's going to take a long time to be a true 1-to-1. Yeah, but they're certainly made it like 60-40.
I'm not going to go as far as to say that they've made the trip, but they're on their way.
But here's the thing too: had Logan Paul won the title from LA Knight, they would have waited a week on Logan Paul's inaugural celebration as champion, because he was a heel. That's why they did it to Nia. It wasn't a female thing. It was an episode theme. They wanted to have you on a happy foot.
The people that are mad about that, but that's not even a thing either. Like, I'm sorry, if Bayley had retained, Bayley's next thing still would have made it on the show, because I'm sorry, gender aside, Bayley is a bigger star than Nia Jax. It's like I wouldn't expect Bayley to get bumped off the show so that Austin Theory can have a match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're not,
It's exactly the same thing. But like,
it is.
Like, we're very excited because WWE has made all those leaps and bounds. I would say more leaps and bounds have been made by TNA in the fact that they literally do the intergender wrestling, but the other companies aren't going to do that. It's just not enough people are watching TNA, which is really unfortunate, which is why I really like the NXT thing. But yeah, getting back to your initial question, the MJF Britt Baker thing with Alicia too in the mix there. Normally, I jump on it like, oh, it's a chance to dig at AEW. I like all three people involved. So to me, what's my reaction? It's really unfortunate. And should they be putting it in a storyline? Absolutely not. Because three people going through an unfortunate situation shouldn't be ultimately benefiting Sasha fucking Banks.
Exactly. And it just made the entire scenario look even more foolish, because I don't understand why Tony was able to remove the suspension had the Bucks put it in place to begin with. Like the actual story they're telling when they add the real life thematics. It's so many plot
because
holes.
I think by suspending her in real life and then putting that suspension into the storyline, what they're really saying to Britt Baker is, don't speak up again.
Yeah, basically, it feels like,
which is super,
this is your warning. I don't give two.
Which is a super grimy thing, And yes, I would say that if they were doing it in WWE as well.
And we have. There was many years that we did not like what they gave us with the women's main roster, deals when we were getting amazing matches on NXT. We're like, why can't they do it on NXT? Like, takeovers felt like, massive events. Like, not just, they all had that, like, WrestleMania level to them for takeovers. And it was like everything.
This is the thing, right? Like, if people ask me, what did you think of the Evolution pay-per-view? If I'm honest, the whole show was kind of flat to me. Like, there wasn't much there. There was some remnants of the Diva era still in there at the time. The pay-per-view itself was not great. The attendance wasn't great. I don't think they picked a particularly great venue. Other side of that coin, it's fantastic that it happened.
Yeah.
Like two things can be true. Anyways, I'm going to try and make this work in 2 minutes or less. My random ass question for you, the hint that I gave you was it's a Braun Breaker question that's not really about Braun Breaker.
Yes.
So here we go. So going back to the black and gold days of NXT, our number one fear was what? People being called up.
Yeah, exactly.
People being called up, right? Nobody was good.
We didn't want to see anybody taken away from NXT. Like that
everybody got ruined.
Issue.
Everybody got ruined. Everybody was, turned into something different. Their gimmick was changed.
That's why we couldn't understand. Like, it was working so great, and you had Bayley being this amazing face on NXT, and then they bring her up, and it's like you lost it. You made her a hugger, but you made her a weakling, and then she couldn't even confront Alexa, in a hardcore fucking match. So it just, like you said, they didn't have the same oomph that they did down below. So
okay, so here is my question, and it's a kind of a convoluted question, right? Braun Breaker, currently, I would say... Sorry, I'm going to rephrase this. Back then, when everything was kind of shit, NXT was our safe haven. Nobody wanted to get called up because they got ruined immediately, right? Yeah. If somebody got called up and just... Like, they didn't even have to be great. If somebody just called up and they didn't get ruined right away, we'd be talking about that for weeks.
Yeah, that was like an amazement that happened. We didn't really get that ever. It was very rare.
Because it was so rare. Instances. It was so rare that somebody got treated properly in their call up that we would be talking about it for weeks if somebody didn't die on day one. Now, transplant that to now. Look at how well Braun Breaker's doing as a call-up, and how much does it say about WWE right now that how good Braun Breaker is doing as a call-up is about the 10th thing on the list of good things to talk about. Go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't feel like it's a death sentence anymore, really. It was for so long for people to be called up, and now, because I think... you have synergy in that, one, Triple H knows how NXT works. He was down there, he was head of creative, he was booking it, and who did he put in charge? His best friends. You had Road Dogg down there, you have Shawn Michaels. Yep. So not only is it someone that he's shared a life with for the past 30 years, and then he's extremely close with, that never left the company, you know what I mean? They didn't go to TNA and, WCW. They were the WWE guys, essentially, you know what I mean? And they made their names there, they stayed there, and they've been a family since. So they also have that great friendship that turned into a great working relationship, and it's now the synergistic ability of those two to communicate. Hey, what are you doing with so-and-so? Okay, well, what if we call them up into the... you can see how pretty much there's a plan. As where before, when Vince would suddenly want somebody... you wouldn't have a notice. NXT would just get plucked magically, and it's like, oh, good, we lost every top female in NXT. And what did they do?
It was Ricochet, Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa all on one night, along with Lacey Evans and the big fucker.
And Nikki, right? Didn't she come up too? Nikki
No,
Cross?
Who was the Lars Sullivan?
Oh, Lars Sullivan, yeah.
Remember him?
Oh God. With his posting history. But yeah, so you have Triple H and Hunter working together. As before, you didn't have Vince and Hunter even really speaking, he said. Triple H was saying that Vince would not clue him into anything, and then he would just come down and be like, oh, I'm taking this, and this. Let's go.
Well, the other thing was that Triple H saw everything that Vince was doing up on the main roster and saw how bad it was and tried to go as far the other way as possible.
Absolutely. So he went ahead and he was like, hey, I don't have to go crazy over this. I know what, I'm not going to feel like I'm wasting time and effort putting in so much care about certain people. And I mean, like one of the last views, but it's a prime example. Both Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, when they came up, Karrion was still the NXT champion, I believe.
Yep.
And that's when he got pinned in 2 minutes, rolled up by Jeff fucking Hardy. And then on top
Which
of
I should love because I'm a Jeff Hardy guy.
Well, you should love, but it didn't turn into a story. There wasn't a purpose for it. He just got beat. And it was like a big fuck you to NXT is what it felt like.
Yeah.
And then, we had the Bearcat. You get Keith Lee and then nothing, and then didn't know what to do with him. And, they're going to have Adam Cole be a manager. The Undisputed Era should have been the easiest thing ever to get right, and they lost them.
I bet you it is in the next 2 years. I bet you we get the Undisputed Era up on the main roster back in NXT or back in WWE.
Yeah,
I bet
the
it
things
happens.
I wanted to see we saw on AEW, and it felt half-assed and less than. The Undisputed Elite never went anywhere, and then now the whatever you want to call it with Adam Cole, the Devils, thing they have going on is awful because he's not even been there.
Because he's not there, and
MJF.
it's being run by Roderick Strong.
Yeah, and Roderick's just pretty much doing what he did with Taven, and it's like and Bennett and. It just feels like subpar idea of what it could have been, sadly, and so many times have we seen that. Like I said, so now we have this synergistic connection, and you can see there's forethought and planning put in. Okay, we're going to make sure that this one's the champ here, so that when they go up, they're ready-made to challenge for IC titles or whatever it might be. And they did a great job so far bringing up several people from NXT and handling them well. And they've also done a great job, which we didn't really see much back then when Triple H was managing NXT.
Sending people the other way.
Yeah, the other way. So it makes NXT seem equally important. The only time we kind of felt like NXT was important when they won Survivor Series.
Yes.
And then that Friday after, you had the Daniel Bryan Adam Cole match and shit like it was like, oh my God, NXT saved the day because they couldn't get everybody back from the pay-per-view or whatever, and all these things, and it went nowhere.
Yeah.
So
my
point
in the question being, right, like if you told us back then that and I'm specifically using Braun Breaker because I think he's been the best translation recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? If you had told us back then that Braun Breaker was going to be treated this, or anybody that we liked back then, like Tommaso Ciampa back then, as he was at his like evilest, Tommaso Ciampa would have gotten treated the way Braun Breaker was going to be treated now, that would be the story. That would be the headline. That would dominate every conversation. But now the flip side of it all is there's so much good shit happening in WWE right now that an NXT call-up being treated as well as Braun Breaker is right now is still like the 10th or 15th most important thing, most positive thing going on right now. So this thing, this thing that would have made our lives 5 years ago, 10 years ago, almost isn't even on the map now.
Because we're either getting better or...
Because you can talk about the international workings that they're doing. You can talk about the international talent that they're bringing in. You can talk about, I'm sorry, that wave that's now coming the other way from AEW. You can talk about the effect that CM Punk has had, both on the main roster and helping NXT. You can talk about the Bloodline entering its second saga. You can talk about the third iteration of the Judgment Day. You can talk about Cody Rhodes and his story. You can talk about two-night WrestleMania. You can talk about two-night SummerSlam. You can talk about...
You got the Wyatt Six. You got
the Wyatt Six. You can talk about international footprint all over the world. You can talk about the Netflix deal. And something like Braun Breaker being treated just well enough to be where he is right now, that would have been the only conversation, almost gets pushed out of conversation because there's so much conversation to be had. Not to mention NXT NA.
Exactly. And then all the talent we get from there.
Not to mention Bloodsport. Not to mention Noah. Not to mention Marigold. Not to mention everything this, that.
It's just so much good right now that it's...
Oh my God, I'd
have to
find it. I'd have to find it. You got to talk for a second because I have to find something.
Yeah, because I'm just, like you said, though, we're finally at a place, because I look back and Tommaso Ciampa, no entrance music. He would walk out and just get destroyed by the fans. I wanted to see that happen at Mania in the worst way. He was the penultimate fucking heel. He was just so dastardly evil, but he didn't have to cheat to win. He was that damn good in the ring to back it up. Like, there was just so many layers to the heel turn that he did with Johnny, and then everything that followed, and his subsequent reign, and then his return, and If we had gotten that on a big stage, I mean, we really could have gotten something special, and that's kind of my issue. I was really hoping that Ring of Honor would be the current day NXT, in that regard, and not only would it be a feeder program, which it kind of is, but more or less, Ring of Honor feels like, hey, anybody that can't fit on the Dynamite side of things, you're going over there. Anybody that's not burning down they're not really trying to build people there. They're just having people sent there to wrestle.
I got one for you. This is the crossover thing that I saw just today. I don't know anything about OTT wrestling. Apparently, it's a wrestling fed out in Ireland. National Stadium in Dublin retweeted a tweet from JD McDonough because at the OTT 10-year anniversary, they're getting a tag team match over there. I don't know who the opponents are, but it's JD McDonough and Finn Balor returning to OTT for their 10th anniversary show. That's
incredible. And years ago, Vince wouldn't even allow Bubba Ray to be with Devon. Remember when they had that whole thing where Devon was supposed to... So, I mean, hearing this now and seeing people... We saw AJ go everywhere. We've seen so many people travel and coming back. It's just a whole new time for wrestling. Things are very unprecedented and very just in a good place. Like, payment's gone up. Insurance and stability and health is up. Like, everything just feels good.
And I harp on the NXT thing a lot. I didn't mention this. I should have mentioned it before at the Emergence show as part of that... X Division match. One of the people to qualify for that match was Riley Osborne, who's representing Chase U, who's representing NXT and whatever, but also somebody who was in another qualifying match that didn't make it into the actual match was Dante Chen. And
that's right. I forgot about that.
That passes without a headline anymore, which is the next cool step. The first cool step is when those crossovers make the headline. The second cool step is when it's so common that it's not even a headline anymore.
Yeah, now it's just accepted.
Coming off of Tuesday's match with Joe Hendry and Joe Coffey, you had Joe Hendry and Wolfgang on TNA. And it's not a headline, which is almost better. Like you said with women main eventing shows, right? It was a big deal when Bayley and Sasha Banks main evented a takeover in NXT Black and Gold back in the day. Now, there wouldn't be a separate headline about Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan main eventing in Berlin. I mean, if it wasn't for the Gunther stuff, whatever. But Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley's next title match being bumped up into the main event, it wouldn't even touch a headline anymore because it's become so common. The crossovers with TNA are not even being mentioned anymore because they're common, because they have an actual working relationship. But as you say, so many people at the last Bloodsport show, at NOAH, at Marigold, at AJPW, but it's just the WWE itself going all over the world, the stories that are going on within WWE, everything. The fact that fucking Roman Reigns, after 10 years, is a naturally over babyface.
Exactly.
And threatening
without
to steal
having
a little
to
bit
do
of spot,
anything.
And threatening to steal a little bit of spotlight from Cody Rhodes, which wouldn't have been imaginable even a year ago.
I don't even think they're going to steal the spotlight. I think it's going to be where they're the mega powers. But I understand your point. But I really think we're going to get like another mega powers thing where they work together till they don't. And I think there's a lot of stories they can still tell here. Yeah. And they don't even need to turn heel, either one of them, to not get along with past history. And I mean, so there's so many things to make viewers care that it's really important.
And we're going to get the Fuego brothers. And Motor City Machine Guns. And possibly Ricky Starks. Our cup runneth over. Like the Heritage Cup. Like the the NXT Italian American Heritage Cup. There's so much good. And then there's AEW. Jake, tell them where to find you. Hey, the internet cut out right at the end. That was really, really convenient. Jake, once again, I will say, tell them where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me on the Joke Running Show now and again, and then you can also find me here on the Spaz Phoenix channel now and again, on my own channel, Countdown Ended on YouTube, and Countdown Ended on Twitter eventually.
And can you tweet, though?
Not yet, but I do have a few emails that I have to go through that I haven't checked yet, so we'll see if there's any progress to be made.
Sounds good, man. And you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. This has been Jake. This has been the second episode of The State of Wrestling this week. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, me and Super Sexy Jake are tagging out. Bye.